Okay, so when you go in yang style, when you go from press to push, normally, you sit back here, and you really use this part where you're sitting your wrists in your hands to get the stretch into your lower back and down into your sacrum, so it gets into your legs. So you really connect into your legs well as you do it. Well, as you do this, here, there's this rolling that happens. And if you feel my lower back as I do this, if someone comes up here and just checks this. Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. So you get basically this downward wave that goes down through your lower back. And what you want to do for doing the organ massage part to get your kidneys is you want to get that wave happening. And at the same time, slight compression in through your abdomen. And then come out and release. You do the same thing in the Wu style, but the timing element is a little bit different. Okay, so as I sit back, turn, that's where I go down through my lower spine, dropping down. Then you kind of do the compression coming across here, and then you release as your hands go out.
You do both kidneys together?
Yeah. So here, down into your back. So try that. A lot of you are kind of collapsing a little bit too much from your elbows into your back. But also one of the things, and again, if you watch me do it in yang style, it's just harder to see in the Wu style. If you look at, let me see if I get an angle like this kind of. Okay, first of all, you see how my elbows actually really are staying out, lengthened from my spine? Okay, watch the connection though into my hands as I sit. See, it's like I'm rolling. It's almost like I'm holding like a small ball and I'm rolling it up. Well, that's what really gets the connection down your spine really very clear. And that's where you want to get, because you want to get that to get it into your kidneys. You want to get that.
So the elbows aren't drawing in, you're actually stretching out.
Yeah. Yeah, the hands are rolling back and in. It's a little bit similar to the first Qigong. When you come up here, and your elbows are still lengthening out, but your hands are starting to roll back. It's a little bit like that, but it's a little rounder. So you want to make sure that here as you go back, you don't draw your elbows into you. Your elbows actually might even lengthen out slightly. But your fingers then and your hands roll back and sit.
Roll back and
Sit.
sit.
Yeah, it's called sitting with the wrist.
Okay.
Basically the same principle in the Wu style. If you look at the relationship of my elbows and hands as I sit back, they don't go in to my body. out.
This compression in the front that you said you're adding to it, is that there normally in the form as well, or is this something we're adding for the kidneys?
No, this is something you're adding for the kidneys to get a little more compression.
Trying to be aware of rolling from bottom to top.
Yeah, this is from top to bottom.
This one is
Top to bottom.
from top to bottom. The others were so far bottom to top. This is going to be top to bottom. Okay, and that makes sense because it's coming down.
Yeah.
And we time it when we have sufficient control. We time it through the whole transition.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
You want to really feel a very distinct kind of. It's it's almost like feeling like the kidneys are like expanding. It's like they fill out as you do it. Sort of clarify.
A reminder of the level, so we've got the waist, and then it's just above the waist, and it's just below the waist, but
Actually, the more accurate way is probably to see where the rib cage is, and because your kidneys actually go up somewhat under,
partially
under the ribs and then down.
right away,
Yeah.
so they're
Yeah.
right with the kidneys.
Yeah.
Instead of like
Yeah.
stringing it from
Yeah.
the, okay.
Yeah, sort of the key is, the trick is sort of like, okay, if you're here, how do I string it right away?
Yes, it gets
So
done
it's,
really fast.
so it's not like a sequential thing.
Okay, because that's, I was timing it so it would
Yeah.
start here and kind of work its way down and like how fluidly, but it should just start here.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it is because of what you're doing here, but it's immediately connected. It doesn't
You're not
like,
stringing
you're not stringing it, yeah.
I feel you do it in
I thought it was like here.
Here, a little bit above, yeah, that's where you
Right.
feel it most.
A little bit above. I think that's the spot.
Okay, all right, so try it again.
All right.
Yeah.
In the form though, you would do more, here, no, you just immediately
Actually,
go down to your feet.
This is you want an expose on one of the biggest mistakes people make in learning Taiji is that they think that's stringing the 9 pearls. That's not. It's not done. It's all simultaneous. It's way too slow if you do it.
Yeah, because then you seem to like not have any power left.
Right.
You know, like the tailbone descends.
Because I know when like I push, I don't have any power because I'm taking my time.
No, it's really it's something you're aware of, but it's really done.
Rounded
The string is through the pearls all the time.
Okay.
Is another way to think of it.
That's my
Thing that I felt was more of your chi going in there than just pressure.
Yeah.
So you were like really filling it with chi there,
Yeah.
down there, rather than just.
Yeah, no, I'm not just. This is Michael's making an interesting observation here that's worthwhile, I think, to kind of that. He said when I was doing it, it wasn't. He said it didn't just feel like I was just kind of doing what I was doing with my body to make it kind of change, but it was like it was really filling with energy, and that's really what happens when you do this, and you get to where you're not doing it as forced, but you can really kind of do it a little more energetically, and it really. I mean, if you feel my kidneys, they really filled out. They didn't. It wasn't just like the muscles were getting tighter or something. It was like they really expanded, and that's ultimately what you want to get. You know, the expansion of some of the organs is much bigger than others. Kidneys is pretty big. Lungs, obviously, rather large. Heart, not much at all. I mean, it beats, but it doesn't. The whole organ itself doesn't kind of like do an expansion.
So are you really focusing there to get the chi to go there, or are you just doing this and it just goes there?
Yeah, a little both.
So, no, I should circle towards the part where you did again.
Feels the energy.
When do you let go? When do you?
Oh, okay. You let go in the Wu style. If I go from here. Okay. This is starting the filling, all the way to here, then release.
Because they're releasing all the way.
Yeah.
But so the release isn't, it's a gradual release?
Yeah.
That
I mean, it's,
there's still
yeah.
action,
Yeah. Yeah.
but you're gradual.
Yeah. But you release through that extension of the arms.
That's the other thing. Your release was so nice and smooth and
Yes.
easy. Another
Yeah.
one, it wasn't just like go, 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 and then it was like, it was controlled.
Hmm. Yeah. It's very smooth. Yeah.
And it's not, it's,
No.
good for you.
It's a known goal.
So work on this a little bit more. And you might actually do this, and kind of switch around partners and stuff too, because it's good just to feel the different energy in different people. Okay, so Jim was asking about how do you fill, kind of that sense of filling, and it's at first some of it is kind of that just the kind of physical connection, but another part of it is that's why I was talking about the slight kind of compression of your abdomen, which is basically like reverse breathing, and so what that does is that from the front fills back into the kidneys, which is what in turn helps them expand.
Could you say it again?
Frozen it back and then it expanded and then it kind of
Yeah.
did.
Okay. When I was saying that you want to be slightly compressing your abdomen in, well, that's like reverse breathing. And so what you're doing is, part of it is doing, whether you're doing it with your breath or not, it's another question, but that slight compression should be pushing back towards your kidneys.
Okay, then what about this part as you're moving back out? This first part seems to work very well. It fills and it's, everything seems to work, but then at the point of coming out, both for me and the two people I worked with, there was a tendency to kind of
release it then. Yeah, well, what you have to do is you have to kind of proportion out however much kind of filling you have through that entire range of motion. So it goes from here, it doesn't just go to here and stop and then release. It goes from here and it continues filling,
Just keeping the connection.
right, all the way through to here, and then it releases. So it's a longer phase. Also in the Wu style, same thing. Yeah. And release.
in the first part it corresponds to the hands coming back. It's very natural for this to bow and to come in. And when they're going out, are you still trying to create a kind of bowing
Yes.
and drawing in?
Yes, yeah. It's just true in the form too. Just to do in the form regular, you do that.
Okay.
Trying, reversing, like thinking about it up here to make it happen down here with thinking of putting my mind.
Mm-hmm. A little easier if you have your, yeah. My experience is I think the kidneys are the easiest of all the organs to kind of get a feel for.
I got it. All I had to do was feel you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is obviously subject to personal, like, learning patterns and stuff, but, I mean,
Right.
you know, that's my experience. And I think it's because the particular movement really ties very well to doing it. And this is, I mean, I have you actually really use your breathing directly with the movement. And so what I want you to do is, as you go through the phase where you're filling, what I want you to do is inhale and have a sense of like your inhalation going into your kidneys. And then release. And exhale with the release.
Inhale, reverse breathing, or
Yeah. Using a lot of kind of just, I would say, general articulation in your waist as you're doing your form. So if you watch me, and I'll show you what I mean. And I'll do it in both styles, doing grasping sparrow's tail. So if I'm doing Wu style, this is what I see a lot of people kind of doing, more or less, something like this. There's some motion going on through the waist, but not a real lot. The thing is the more motion you have in your waist when you're doing something like this, the more everything generally gets loosened up, and the more kind of space there is through your whole cavity for things to move around and to get churned, for a lack of a better way to do it. So just as a general thing, when you're doing your practice, really work on articulating your waist vertically as well as horizontal. If someone comes up here and like, what I want you to do, Suzanne, is put a finger like on the top of my pelvis and put like a finger at the bottom of my rib cage. Okay, even right here. Or if I do the yang style, same thing. A lot of people are doing kind of like this. They're not, again, really articulating our waist. There's some, but not as much as I from a kind of teaching and practice standpoint, I'd like to see people do more of. Okay?
So I'm seeing not just a lengthening, where Suzanne's having her hands, but also a kind of spiraling that was not there when you were showing
Right.
the incorrect way,
Yeah.
but then it was like the whole.
Well, what happens is, I mean, this, if you just think of it from a kind of a simplified model, let's say you take a cylinder, and if I just turn it, that's the motion I get, right? And if I don't turn it and I just go up and down, it goes, well, if you do both at the same time, you get twists that articulate through. So it doesn't go through necessarily, it's just a straight line. No. There's a whole bunch of motion that's going on through your abdominal cavity because of the combination of turning and opening and closing it, or expanding and contracting it, which creates a lot of spiraling. Okay, so that's just something that I think generally to just kind of be moving to try to get more of that in your form. Because it will actually help you do this massaging stuff too, because then you have a lot more kind of looseness and stuff to really pinpoint what's going on. 4 out of 5. Yeah. I mean, I think everybody was getting, it's interesting to just watch because, you know, when we first started doing it and doing the liver, there was a lot of like, huh? But by the time now, people are really, it's, you know, it's starting to really sit in with people. And I really could see it in the last, working with the kidneys. It really, people were getting it much, much better. And I think you'll find is if you go back now and like if you're doing the stuff with like your liver and stuff, it's gonna be a lot easier to get it when you're done doing all this than it was at the beginning. At the beginning, it's hard to kind of access it, and get much of a feel for it.
I find not only can I find the organ, which at first was a little kind of mysterious, but I'm finding that the massage of that particular organ with that particular move makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a way that kind of the physiology complements what you're doing energetically, mm-hmm. and which is kind of why it works the way it does. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, then let's go on to the lungs. So, one way, okay, that part of those circles in the Yang style, one way to kind of make the equivalent thing in the Wu style is the Wu style does all that there. So, and in terms of starting to work your lungs, what you're trying to get in either this or this is you're trying to get the compression into the bottom of your lungs.
Yeah, we're back to bottom to top.
Now you're going to go bottom to top again. So whether you're doing it in the Wu, where you come back, you come here, and this is where the kind of dropping it in. And if you look, you know, it's really kind of just your diaphragm that initially does a lot of it. Or if you're doing the Yang, come to there. Okay, then what happens is as this gets extended in both forms, there's a rolling that goes up the right lung. So here, form it, and then as you lengthen this out, that's where the extension of the right lung occurs. Then as I come across, going down into the and then up the left lung.
Sometimes do you know where the review of organs and whether it goes up or down, or does it always go?
Except the kidneys.
Oh.
Kidneys go down.
Okay.
So if I'm doing the yawning style, kind of the same thing. Timing's slightly different, but okay, here. Rolling up the right lung, up the left lung, releasing. So in the woo, well, you're kind of there anyway, and it's just your awareness goes back down there, and then you open up the left side. So there. And release.
It sort of looked like in that closing, you picked up the bottom of the left lung. Is that?
A little bit, yeah. Yeah, so there's a question about the timing in the woo form, and what you do is, okay, you get out here, you release. When you form the hook, that's when you're coming down to the base of your lungs. When you come up the right lung is when you're stretching out with the hook and going into the step. And then during the shift, you come back down into the bottom, and then back up the left, and then release.
And as we step, though, we keep the right lung open to
Yes,
the left?
yes, no, you keep the right lung open, and then open the left.
So we don't compress the left step, no, we
No.
just get right open.
No. So Jim was asking about whether this is like tonifying the lungs and stuff, and whether this is, practice that you should be doing all the time. And yes, the simple answer to does it tonify your lungs? Yes, in fact, doing the sequence tonifies all your organs doing it. Generally speaking, the form, if you do it reasonably well, also does a fair amount of tonifying of your organs. What's different about this is it really directly targets them. And in terms of like practicing it, it's a good thing to practice on a fairly regular basis. It's certainly a good thing to practice when you're sick, or if you feel like you're getting sick, or when you're recovering from being sick, or if you just feel, if things like just don't feel very well balanced, kind of internally, it's very helpful for kind of rebalancing your system. And that's often what that I use it for, is because I'll feel like internally I'm kind of like, my system gets a little out of whack, and I'll just, when I do a long form, I'll do this during the grass wing sparrow sail. And by the end of it, it usually feels quite a bit better.
What is fairly often? Every 3 days? Or?
Yeah, especially at first I would do it probably every few days. If nothing else, to just get the kind of the rhythm of it, and get your kind of, so it doesn't become something that's like, what am I doing here, type of thing. So where you can do it comfortably. Because you want to be able to get to where you can do it very comfortably and smoothly. So, like anything, you got to practice it. Otherwise, what fun would it be? I mean, I've always thought the idea of divine revelation is okay. I never thought it worked very well with Taiji. Divine revelation.
Every once in a while. Yeah, just not as a regular practice.
No, it's sort of like, I mean, the side of it that always kind of cracks me up is the people who are like, okay, if I just relax for 30 years, all of a sudden one day I'm going to be able to do this stuff. It's just, I don't find that to be the case. Huh? I know. It's like,
Well, in a lot of the books, that's basically what they say. If you just do this, then you'll get it.
yeah, yeah.
Keep doing it.
Yeah.
And if you don't, then you're not doing it right.
And you won't get it.
That's right. That's all.
And the reason you haven't gotten it is because you're not doing it right.
See how easy that is?
It's a wonderful. I love tautologies. Okay, so that kind of clarify that a little bit.
And then also, we talked about this in class before, but we keep the left leg as the energetic leg. Does that correspond to anything with the lung or not? Or is that?
No, not really. Not really. Okay, well, let's go back and just work on that, on the lungs some more, a little bit.
Part when you come across, you go down, and then, is that like that's part of the...
Yeah. So you're coming here. When you've stretched and stepped, you've opened up the right side. And then you come across, and then you open up the left side, and then at the end, you release.
But the dipping down on the left side is not a contraction.
No, not really. And on the yang style, I'll do it for Katie's sake, since she had to go with dog sit. So again, here, getting the pressure down to the base of the lungs, coming up the right lung, coming across and kind of sitting your awareness back to the bottom of the left lung, opening up, coming up the left lung, and then at the end, releasing. Okay, so try it a few more times. So Michael was asking about how kind of getting the release really up into the upper parts of your lungs. And a lot of it has to do with getting a really good release through the points in your shoulders, your shoulder nests and stuff. Because then what happens is there's actually less tension around the upper part of your rib cage and through your sternum, which allows your lungs to open up more. So like if you come up here and do it, Michael, we use you as an example of this. And just go ahead and get to the end of when you're in single whip. Okay. So what I'm talking about is getting the points, like, and I'll do it on the other side also, but getting all this to let go. So you get a lot more up into your upper. The thing is there's a couple phrases in the Tai Chi classics. One is it says sink your chest and pluck up your back. Well, people mistakenly think that sinking your chest means you go like. That's not what it means. It means you actually just, it actually lengthens out and then it relaxes, which opens it up. And then the plucking of your back, the last correction I did, where you were kind of doing this, it's lifting this to get it so your back really opens up all the way up your spine. And then what happens is it takes pressure off your entire lung chamber.
Does it have to do with getting your shoulder blades to float out?
Yes, that's part of it. But it's also getting your spine to lengthen out. It's both.
You were sort of spiraling.
I was just fixing an alignment on his arms because his arm alignments are not quite right. If you look at this for a second. Right here, the alignment between Michael's shoulder and knee is pretty good. But it's the alignment between his foot and hand that's off. Because you really want to have this all like almost like in one plane.
So it wasn't that you were moving the Like on some of the things we've been sort of
Yeah.
spiraling.
Well, I was doing that, yeah. But that's part of, but it also brings it into a better alignment. So like if you look at this arm for a second.
Hard to stay relaxed.
And then,
There's so much more space.
yeah,
It looks still up there.
A
yeah,
lot of space.
yeah. If you get this, it's one of the things. You just like watch me run. Let me just do it. And I'll do it in both styles, but for a second. See the alignment here of this arm and this leg? Stays there. You get a lot of room in there. Same thing here. The more you get opened up through your shoulders and everything, the less constriction there is in the upper part of your lungs. And so you get a fuller release and expansion. Okay? So, which cleans out a bunch of crap. Yeah, yeah. So go ahead and work on that some more. With a partner a little bit. So if someone else wants to come up here, basically I want to do the same type of, someone who does yang style, come up here so I can do what I want you to do. It's slightly different. So go ahead and just go from push and go through and get to single whip. Actually do it facing that way. No, facing, starting push that direction. So you end up in single whip this way. Okay. So what I want you to do with the person you're working with is, first of all, is get into their shoulder and just get their shoulder to relax and open out. So it's not a matter of just getting it to relax, but it's also getting it to kind of lengthen away. The shoulder blade comes away, but at the same time, the shoulder nest actually relaxes. And you get more length actually through your arm as one of the things. But you also get less pressure through your upper chest cavity.
So you're pressing on the shoulder nest?
I'm just, yeah, lightly. So I'm actually really trying to get it to move out and around, not pushed in. Because when you push in, you put tension there.
What are you doing on the back?
I'm really just trying to get some of the points along her shoulder blade to release more. So her arm can lengthen out more. Again, releasing pressure. And then lifting up. So it's not so much like you're trying to stretch it out, but you're trying to just get everything to release. And like I was saying with the front, you're not like really pressing into the shoulder nest because you're not trying to pull it in. You're trying to get it to release out. Like Dana, if you...
The feeling was not of pulling it or pushing it, but kind of just guiding, like putting it in tension.
Yeah, lightly. So like if you feel like my shoulder nest and my shoulder blade for a second. And I'm going to just exaggerate this, but there, now I'm tight. Okay, what I want to do is I want to get it to lengthen out, release. And you actually have a lot of movement there when it gets loosened up. There's actually quite a bit. It's an interesting martial side to this that comes out. Is if we're sparring, let's say, and I'm throwing like jabs. I'm not going to hit you, but I'm just, yeah, they're going to read me Like, okay, that's my range, right? Well, that's not my range.
Uh-huh. Okay, so that extra 6 inches.
Well, it's not 6 inches, but it's probably 2 or 3 inches, which means all of a sudden, if the person gets used to reading you at your kind of unlengthened distance, and then it all of a sudden creates a whole bunch of holes, basically, in their defense. So do this with a partner in single whip and try to just get that releasing to occur some, so you get more looseness and more space in your upper lungs. There was a question about kind of the timing and stuff in the single whip and yang style. And if I'm coming from push in yang style, there's basically as I'm shifting my weight into the back foot here, there's a close, there's an open out here, and then there's another close coming in. And this closing coming in is where you go down, really get at the bottom of your lungs, okay? There's an opening which sends the hook out. Simultaneously, it sends the step out. That's what brings the energy up the right one. As I shift, there's a closing pulling me into my left leg, and then an opening, and the opening is what brings it up the left lung, and then at the end, there's the release. So it's very much timed in with the closing and opening of the weight shifts, how you move. So again, there's a close and an opening here. Close, opening, which brings it up. Close, open, brings it up. I guess I duped that for the Wu style too. Just for there's a closing here, opening as you step and extend, closing as you come across, and opening, which brings it up the left lung. I would suggest doing something maybe like this. Okay, you're coming here, you're doing your spleen, right? And then release it. Just really almost stay here and just let everything kind of get released. And then focus into your heart as you come forward and then release.
Okay, it was releasing too late.
That might be, yeah. I think that's kind of easy to do because the timing is slightly different than how you probably normally do the form.
From here to here?
Yeah, it's from here
And then continue.
to there, and then it releases.
Very hard to keep it together when doing it all in a row.
Yeah.
It's like,
Which one?
it's easy to do one at a time,
Yeah.
but stringing them together is very hard to keep
You can just do repetitions of
You can, but there's a balancing that occurs by doing all of them that doesn't occur if you just do repetitions of the ones. So it's, in one way, you can do that, especially as maybe a way to learn it. But I think when you're really practicing, you really actually want to do the whole 5.
Oh, one right after the other.
Yeah,
Right, because you could do first one 5 times.
yeah. No. You want to do the actual sequence. The actual sequence.
It's like trying to get the transition from one to the next. It's hard to set up when you're constantly moving.
Yeah, this is the type of practice that your form practice has to be pretty automatic to be able to do, because it takes and after a while this becomes very easy to do, very natural. It doesn't take a lot of fiddling and stuff once you get kind of really hooked up and stuff, and so you don't have to be going, oh, well, what am I doing here? What am I doing there? But you're able to just naturally do it. Okay, any other?
Can you go over the transition between the liver and the spleen again?
In Wu style?
Wu style.
Okay. So when you come around and you're working the liver up, then you release, and then you go into the spleen. And then you release, and then you go into the heart, and then you release. Other questions? Okay, well, thank you. Thank Master Tak for having taught me this. He taught me this actually when I was recovering from dengue fever, which was a thoroughly unpleasant experience that I do not recommend to anybody.